I've been programming for roughly 5 years at this point, and seeing something like this is a true sign that AI development is going to fundamentally change the way we program things, and thus why it's super important to follow along with a lot of advancements, which have been growing at an exponential rate these past couple of years. And lucky for you, I got access to OpenAI's Codex, their Codex playground. You can see all kinds of examples here. I'm going to go through a few of them just to kind of show you their use cases and like how useful they would be and just where you could use them in a project. So give you some project ideas for you. So let's start with some SQL querying. So this is pretty cool because if you give it kind of an example of a table, you can have it query various things. Let's see, query the names. Let's say a query to list the names of the employees with the highest salary payment amounts. Let's see that. This is going to be a very basic query. Yep. Limit 1. Let's remove that. Order by descending. Okay, it's using 2 group bys, but yeah, that should be correct. I don't really use Postgres, but that should be correct. What I'm actually going to do is give it a Leetcode question. So this is a hard question. It's called top 3 salaries. Now hopefully the OpenAI people did not train Codex on Leetcode, because that would be cheating, because it would have already seen that. So write a SQL query to find the employees who are highest earners. So highest earners in department is the employee who has a salary in the top 3 unique salaries for that department. And we can start with select. See what it does. Okay. So yeah, apparently it cannot write perfect code as I thought it would, but you know, it's still like being able to write this. I could actually probably use this if I went in and like debugged it, but like the fact that it just wrote this with just this command right here and these like examples here, that's still like pretty cool that it just wrote this. So its strength in writing code is like fairly strong. In fact, one thing it can also do is calculate the time complexity as well. If you don't know what time complexity is, essentially what happens to the function as your inputs start to get larger and larger. O of n times k. Okay, so it's saying it's O of n times k here, but let's actually, I want to try this with a recursive function. If you don't know what a recursive function is, don't worry about it. It's just kind of a function that calls itself. That's all you really need to know. And my guess is that it probably, this one, the factorial, I haven't studied this one, but it probably should be linear if you think about it, because this recursive function right here is just calling itself n times n minus 1. So that's like linearly stacking a bunch of recursive calls until you get to the base case of n equals 1. So let's see what this is. O of n, okay. And the recursive function can be rewritten using the tail call optimization. Okay, yeah, it wrote some extra stuff for us, but O of n, that's exactly what we needed. And if you look at explain code, it can also just give it a bunch of code and it can just kind of explain it. This would probably be useful for a lot of documentation for companies. Like if you write some stuff and you give it to this, it can kind of automatically write for you what the code does, which is a little bit different than a docstring. So let's open this up. And yeah, docstring is essentially just, let me actually show you an example instead of just telling you right here. Okay, so this is an actual function that I use in the project. All it does is, in the name, replace spaces with pluses. I was essentially automatically sending Gmail emails. I was like setting it up, and I needed to make sure that the spaces were replaced with pluses so that in the URL it would like work. And if you put it, I had to use this. And this right here is the doc that I created myself. But let's actually remove this and see what it does. An elaborate, highly quality docstring for above. Let's actually, yeah, 150 is good. Let's actually reduce this a little bit because we're just shouldn't be too big. But yeah, let's see what it does. Replaces the string, replaces the space in the string with pluses. Yeah, that's what it does. Parameters, sample string to be modified, returns the modified. That's pretty much what it does. The self is because it was in an object. Sample makes sense. Yeah, that's pretty much what it does. And I could see this being used as a really useful tool with programmers. And yeah, this is just fairly cool stuff, but the real meat of this video comes in when we have natural language to Python. Actually, you can do Python to natural language if you want. But I'm going to slightly change this. So let's say, I don't know, make me a sequential neural network with 4 convolutional layers. If you don't know what a convolutional layer is, don't worry about it. So let's start with import TensorFlow as TF. Model is chars.sequential. Yeah, we have a convolutional layer. Input shape is 28 by 28 by 1. That's like this one right here is probably going to represent an image channel. So let's actually run this in the Colab notebook. So this is completely AI generated code. Let's see what it does. And what it does is it's just going to show us all the layers. So yeah, it works. I mean, there's no errors. It makes me a neural network pretty good.
So you want to be a software engineer at Google?
You know, I might not need to know how to reverse a linked list, but let's see if this can do it. So you can say in Python, write me a function that reverses a linked list. Yeah, let's try that. So let's start with def and let's see what it does. Now I don't know if this actually works because I haven't started practicing for coding interviews yet, but you know, this is AI generator right here. Let's see if it can generate anything else. Nope, it's done. So yeah, this is now I can get into Google now thanks to this. But what's even cooler than this is that people have managed to generate entire games out of just natural language commands. So let me actually show you 2 examples. Let's say create a Python function which is a, let's say, classic snake game, and display the game using the Pygame library. Alright, so yeah, it just pretty much just made the game right here for us. And to prove to you that this actually works, I am going to run this right here. So it's about like 200 lines of code. I'm going to run this. Okay, so I did have to make a few minor adjustments to the code. I had to look at it a little bit and remove some, not some errors, but some organizational things. But let's see if it finally works. Hold on. Oh, whoa. Oh my gosh, I think it's working. Finally! Oh, game over. Okay, let's play again. The keys work, yes! Ah. Oh my god. This is like the coolest thing ever. I lost again. Like, think about this. An AI just made this game for us. Now, it was trained on examples from GitHub, but still, an AI just made this snake game for us. It literally just made a game for us. Like, How freaking cool is that? Oh, come on. This is just like super cool, honestly. This is the coolest thing I've seen all day. This is just truly, truly remarkable. But in addition to making games, it can translate between different programming languages. Okay, let's translate this function in Python. I'm actually going to translate this into C++, predict proba. C, because C++ is not one of the languages because it's considered old school. But let's see what this does. Actually, hold on. Let me make it... Oh, okay. I was going to make it a little longer, but I guess it did it for us. So it... Okay, so it's a vector of a... It's a double vector type method. The C++ developers can probably appreciate this more than I can, but you know, it even drew our... takes an array of strings and returns an array of probabilities. Okay. How about let's actually translate this into an even older language. Let's go back. Let's try Fortran. Let's see that. I've been told that Fortran is really, really old, but let's see what it can do. Okay, subroutine. I have seen this keyword before, but yeah, it's pretty cool right here. Look, I mean, right here, bam! It just wrote Fortran for us. That is just still freaking cool to me. This is amazing. It can even fix bugs. So it can make games. It can translate between languages. It can fix bugs. It can do time complexities, as we saw. It can do docstring comments. I'm wondering what this can't do. We'll actually discuss that at the end of the video. Fix bugs in the following function. Okay, so I'm actually going to use my own function because people have probably used the exam. So this is a function, takes in a name. I wrote this for example. The first bug you'll notice is that there's an equals here, but when there should be a double equals. So this is just a, I guess, beginner's mistake. This means assignment when really it should be double equals, but I'm going to see if it picks up on that. It probably will. And also this print statement, there should be quotation marks here, but yeah. Let's see if it can write this. So let's change this to the Python mode. This is a fairly easy example, but it's my own. Okay, so it's writing us a bunch of extra stuff. We don't need that. Okay, so if it did fix the double equals, which is pretty good. You know, it did not do the quotes here, probably because I should probably, I don't know, it didn't do the quotes because, you know, debugging is a much harder problem than generating code because debugging it often requires a lot of context, especially from your client, from the business, from your professor, from whoever, that is kind of difficult to describe to your computer. It's kind of difficult to describe certain contexts, but, you know, it can debug some fairly good code. Let's actually give it another function. So here's a simple function called func I created, and this function looks fine on the outside. It looks very innocent, right? We're just creating a function and we're having it print x. X is, actually I'll make this clearer, x is going to be equal to x plus 1, just to show you what's wrong with it. Yeah, so let's run this, and if we run this, we get an error, unbound local error. What the heck is this? Local variable referenced before assignment. But you might ask, well, we assigned it right here. We assigned it before we defined it, before we called it. So what gives? Well, what gives is that x is local to the scope outside of the function, so anywhere outside. And what we're trying to do is basically reassign it inside the function. And it's kind of getting confused at this point because it's declared above here, so anything else named x, this kind of overshadows it. So it's just getting confused here. So let's see if it fixes it. It probably will, is my guess. I'll make the tokens 100. It'll probably fix this easily, but yeah. What the heck is all that? Yeah, so global x, I think, so what it's changing, it's gonna try to do is use the global keyword. He fixes it. Let's run this in the Colab notebook, see if it works. It works! It worked! Okay, albeit this is a very, very simple example, but it's still just so cool that it can do basic debugging. So it can generate code and debug code. Isn't that the job of a software engineer and developer? We'll talk about that in the end of the video. I have some couple more examples to show you. This is just so cool. Let's just do JavaScript to Python. So this is actually a, hold on, let me do highlighting. So this is a JavaScript function right here that I've used. This is just catch image. Essentially, you're just getting an image.jpg from wherever this JavaScript file is. And yeah, but we're gonna actually generate Python. I have absolutely no idea what this is gonna do because I guess fetch in Python would probably be open, or I know for OpenCV there's a special open image method. But yeah, let's see what this does. Okay, so it's also using async image response await fetch async IO. Okay, good. So it yeah, okay. So this is what async IO does. It allows you to write using async await text. The good thing is that it caught the async keyword. So all we would need to do is import async IO, and this could work. Yeah. So we have an image. I don't know if I don't know if these two lines would work, but I know that this would work because get event loop is a method there. Run until complete is also a method. So a question you might have is if OpenAI's Codex can not only generate code, it can do basic debugging, it can translate between languages. Doesn't that kind of invalidate the existence of software engineers and software developers? My answer to this is probably not in the short term, but maybe in the long term. I don't think it's going to invalidate I don't think it's going to take away jobs. What it's going to do is it's going to force software developers to kind of focus on maybe more higher level implementations and let OpenAI do some of the more annoying low level implementations. I could definitely see a business analyst using this, and if you don't know what a business analyst is, they essentially just are a go-between between the engineers and the clients, or maybe their bosses or the company's like executives. And what they do, they essentially just write a bunch of specifications probably using a lot of Excel, maybe some SQL. But they're very businessy focused, so they have a business background. So I could see this being used by business guys. So, but what about software engineers? What's going to happen to them? Well, I would say that they're probably going to, again, focus more on higher level stuff. Maybe in 10 years, software engineers might not be writing code at all. They might be just using GUIs to kind of drag and drop. They could be using drag and drop software to build apps. Software engineers spend their time mostly debugging and maintaining code. That's stuff that this OpenAI Codex, while it's really cool, probably can't really do that very well yet. And I think that if you want to kind of reduce your chances of having a job replaced by something like this, you probably want to focus more on being closer to the business. And that means working closely with your manager, or maybe focusing more on the back end maybe. We just have to wait and see how this technology progresses, because this is really, really, really cool, and it is really important for you to follow, as I think that AI is going to be really revolutionizing. It is already revolutionizing. Like if you think about it, you look at the past 5-6 years of AI development, it has exponentially grown, and it is not slowing down any moment. So yeah, just follow along with AI developments. I mean, last year it solved alpha folding. We got GPT-3, we got Codex. I mean, if you've heard of GitHub Copilot, that's also using this Codex thing. So we really just need to pay attention to make sure that we can use AI as a friend and not have it kind of outpace us.